Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And hello everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Juice Box in 2025. This is going to be an interesting episode. I haven't had a true, just recap episode of the week that was. In a couple of weeks, we did not have World's End predictions, but we did have Main Event Maniacs and a SIP series episode, so we'll talk about that. I have been, unfortunately, a little bit under the weather the last probably week and a half, so I'm glad that I had those episodes when I did, and I decided, get this episode out tonight. I'm recording it as I'm watching the first 3-hour edition of SmackDown, so anything interesting happening during this show, I will comment on as well throughout this show. Before we get into any other stuff, let's get to the basics. Follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. You can find the Juice Box on Apple Podcasts via iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, JuicySteen.podbean.com, and YouTube. Of course, if you listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via iTunes, leave a rating and review. That really helps. Drop a comment in the YouTube section at JuicySteen. Any ideas, comments on the show, suggestions, questions, I will do my best to respond to all of it. Like I said, so I haven't been live, quote unquote, just me, in a couple of weeks. So quite a few things have happened, programming wise and news wise, and in the wrestling world, of course. So we'll try to tackle as much as we can in this next hour or so. In this episode in particular, we're going to go with a little bit of a year recap of the Juice Box, just a quick synopsis, just a quick couple of news and notes, of course. We're going to go to the AEW World's End pay-per-view. We're going to recap that show, including what happened on the first episode of Dynamite that was aired simulcast on Max, which was interesting. And then we'll talk about the final episode of Raw that took place on USA. And then we'll conclude by previewing the Raw debut on Netflix next Monday. Should be a wild, wild show. And of course, we're going to close out actually as well with some Ask Juice. Wrestling Nation chimed in with a couple of questions, so we'll be doing that as well. So first, let's go back to the last couple of things that happened on this program to close out our 2024. We had the SIP series episode featuring Donnie Football. I'd like to thank Donnie Football for that. He sat down with me for about an hour and 20, and we had a very interesting conversation about wrestling, football, the crossover between the two, how Donnie became a wrestling fan, and a little bit of everything else in regards to that. He's very generous to give his time to this show, and I appreciate that. And if you check it out, the episode in this RSS feed, you can check it out on YouTube in its video version, which I thought was, again, sometimes we'll get a video version up, sometimes we won't. It all depends on timing, to be quite honest with you. So that was fun to do. And that was a couple of Sundays ago before Christmas, and then we did air the Main Event Maniacs episode a week ago on Friday, which was a culmination of a couple of different matches. It was the Sting-Hogan debacles in WCW in 97 and 98. Brian and Jay discussing Starrcade 97, the following episode of Nitro where they had a match, and then, of course, the subsequent Super Brawl 8 match between the two. So it was quite interesting to go back and revisit some of these things. It was so depressing. Starrcade 97, of course, just didn't end the way it should have. Leads to Super Brawl 8, and even though that turned out how we needed it to, Sting lost the title by Spring Stampede 2 months later. So, it is what it is. But Brian and Jay covered it in great detail, and I appreciate their work on that program every time they put forth an episode. And that's where I wanted to get to this little year recap deal here. I was very proud of all the work we have done here in 2020. Back in 2024, I put out a tweet thanking everybody, and I'd like to thank everybody again now. LeBar, Eisenberg, Josh Cross, Donnie, Lucas, Loper, Brian, Jay. We had Brian Goulash on for a Sting retrospective before his final match as a pro wrestler. Andrew Baydala we had on for a couple of pre-show or previews of show prediction shows. We had the SIP series, of course, featuring the Apron Bump, Tim from the Yeah Revolution, Wrestling for Sale, wrestling t-shirt dealer, The Rev, of course, Ron Hunt, Josh Taylor from 93.7 The Fan and KDKA, and last but not least, Donnie Football from 93.7 The Fan. So that, in addition to the shows that collaborated with me or I got to be on their shows, like I said, Apron Bump, Around the Mat with PJ, I couldn't forget about him. Shining Wizards podcast I was on, the No Bones About Wrestling podcast I was on, and of course, I'd be remiss without shouting out Nick from Extra Cooler, who, along with Brad Martin, helped the Juicebox logo come to fruition last April. And Matt Presto, friend of the show, for his assistance on the intro to Main Event Maniacs. So it really was a group effort, and it will continue to be a group effort as we go into 2025, as we dive into 2025 in the juice box of it all. That was the 2024 little recap. Let's dive into some real wrestling recaps here. Let's talk about AEW first. World's End. This was a fun show. It was a good show. I would say less than in regards to Full Gear and some other pay-per-views, but I think there's still some good stuff on here. Okada and Ricochet was solid. Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher in the Continental Classic semifinal was one of the better opening matches you'll ever see. Mariah May and Thunder Rosa in the street fight was damn good. Takeshita Hobbs, MJF, Adam Cole, it was what it was. Okada defeats Will Ospreay to win the Continental Classic, arguably, and they're referring to him as this now, the greatest tournament wrestler of all time, which I enjoy that. It's a nice little sports reference. It's true, though. Okada has won a lot of tournaments, I believe 5 major tournaments in professional wrestling. Jon Moxley retains his world title by defeating Hangman, Orange Cassidy, and Jay White, but I'm here to tell you about my favorite match of the night. Mercedes Moné defeats Chris Statlander in another wonderful match. And I tweeted out that the pinfall attempt that Mercedes Moné put on Chris to win the match was, one of the greatest, if not the greatest pinfall I've ever seen. People loved that and supported that, and there was people that were like, have you ever watched wrestling before in your life? Clearly you don't watch wrestling. Clearly you've never seen any wrestling. Clearly you've only watched wrestling this year. People that know me know what is true and what's not. I mean, I've watched plenty of wrestling over my life, and I am allowed to have that opinion. So it is what it is. I thought it was a wonderfully unique pin, and someone even said, well, Wheeler Yuta uses that pin. And I said, well, how many world titles has Wheeler Yuta won or retained with that pinfall? Still waiting. So I thought World's End was a fun show, and it led into the first episode of AEW Dynamite simulcast on Max, which was really, really cool. By the way, watch it on Max, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. If you're a content lover, if you really are an aficionado of watching things in higher quality, I mean, it looked pretty damn crisp on Max. So I would wager if you have Max, check out Dynamite on there. Check out Collision on there. So good stuff there. Adam Copeland returned, of course, at the end of World's End. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. And he changed his name to Cope, which I love. It's similar to Edge. You can have a lot of plays on words with that, with, cope harder. You need to cope more, copium. There's so many things that, like, you need to cope with this decision. There's so many ways to play his name off that, and I really love that for him. Because to me, if you can't reinvent yourself, why are you even trying? I'm looking at Chris Jericho, Matt Cardona, and now Adam Copeland, Edge, Sexton Hardcastle, Cope. So I really dig it, and I think it's going to grow on people, and it's a new little chapter for Adam Copeland, so I'm here for it. Shout out to Cope. But this Dynamite was interesting, to say the least. FT Rated R rather, having their big match in a big win against the Death Riders, which is really cool. Who's to say what's coming up with the future of some of these things? We've got a couple of things. We have Wrestle Dynasty and Wrestle Kingdom coming up in the next couple of days, which will have Kenny Omega's return to the ring, amongst other matches. Zack Sabre Jr. and Ricochet, who Ricochet now he's a whole new character. He attacked Swerve Strickland with a pair of gold scissors that he stole from the set of Jordan Peele's 2019 horror movie Us. Love this new psychotic character that Ricochet is now portraying. I'm here for that, especially if it means more depth to the character. I love that. Some other things, the Acclaimed look just about on the outs, so I'm looking forward to potentially Anthony Bowens becoming a single star. Who knows? Okada talking trash to Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. I think Okada and Omega are going to be set for something soon. You've got a Revolution happening in March, Grand Slam Australia happening in February, so we'll see what's next there. Casino Gauntlet match happening next Wednesday on Dynamite, where, that's one of my favorite new match concepts. People coming out at random, and the first pin wins. It's just a unique way of a gauntlet match. So, Jay White gets, I believe, the first spot in the Casino Gauntlet, so we'll have an opportunity to win the match first, which, that's a huge deal. Jeff Jarrett came down to the ring with his boots in hand, set him down in the middle of the ring, and he said he was grateful. He thinks, it's tough for his career to come to an end. His grandmother took a second job selling pro wrestling tickets, changed his father's life, and his family's life forever. She became the CFO of the Tennessee Territory, and the father bought the promotion. After 40 years, he got in. He created TNA. Good and bad throughout Jeff Jarrett's career. People will look at him negatively. Oh, he put the belt on himself too many times, and this and that, and this. King of the Mountain. Like, I don't know. All these negative things about Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett is a damn legend in the pro wrestling world. And, he says he's re-signed with AEW. He wants one more ride. He wants the AEW world title. Does it mean that he's going to win it? I don't know. Could it mean that he ends up winning the world title at All In Texas? Oh, wow. I would love to see that, for sure. But he did put himself in the Casino Gauntlet match, and he wants to be the AEW World Champion, so we shall see. Hook challenging Christian Cage. Looks like they're going to wrestle at Maximum Carnage, which is in 2 weeks, January 15th. And I believe the winner of the Casino Gauntlet match will get a shot at Moxley at that Maximum Carnage Dynamite on the 15th. It looks like we're going to get on Collision Rated FTR versus the Learning Tree on Collision, which would be interesting. MJF stated he wants to be a world champion again. So a lot going on in AEW. Looking forward to it. World's End was a nice way to close out the year. And it's definitely building up more equity as we've got, like I said, Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty, Kenny Omega coming back into the fray, and Then, he's finally showed back up on AEW television. You're going to get the Grand Slam Australia. Are we sure? Is it a pay-per-view? I'm not really... I think it's a pay-per-view. So, but it's in Australia, February 15th. That'll be interesting. And then, of course, March is going to be Revolution, March 9th from LA, the Crypto.com Arena. That will be there. And we have confirmed Big Boom AJ's next match in AEW will take place at Revolution. Cannot wait for him to once again bring the boom. I think that's pretty much all I've got for AEW at the moment. If anything else I can recall comes up, I will bring it up. I'm kind of going through tweets, trying to see if there's anything I potentially missed that I haven't really seen. But let's, here's the other part. AEW Dynamite new theme song is I'm So Excited by the Pointer Sisters. Now, polarizing is one word for it. People criticize the Saturday Elton John song, which I think they're bringing back into the fray for Collision. We've had Welcome to the Jungle and November Rain brought in for music videos, helping out with AEW's promotional material, certain things of that nature. Let's get into some WWE. So, yeah, the quick little thing about the theme song is a lot of people were complaining how, it's not rock, it's not current, it's annoying, this doesn't give me a flavor of what I want in AEW. Okay, well, Tony Khan's going to pay for whatever music he sees fit. I think he likes throwback stuff. I think he likes a little bit of a throwback look to the shows, and I don't see why it's a bad idea, and I think they're going to run with it. So, I'm here for it. Let's get to WWE. We've got a lot going on. We've got the Royal Rumble February 1st. A week before that, we've got January 25th, Saturday night's main event once again. And a couple days away, January 6th. Nothing ever important happens on January 6th, so this will be the first time something ever truly of significance in pro wrestling has really happened on this day. And it is the first episode of Raw on Netflix. Now, outside of a lot of random stuff, mishmash stuff that happened on the last episode of Raw on USA, it closed out with CM Punk and Seth Rollins face-to-face. This is a match that we're really looking forward to. The first episode of Raw on Netflix is going to be something really special. We'll get into a preview of that in a moment. And maybe some predictions, considering there's not going to be an episode before then. But everything that's been kind of lining up, there's been a lot of rumors with John Cena. Who's he gonna wrestle at WrestleMania? Should he be the 17-time world champion? How are things gonna play out? Should he face Cody Rhodes? Should he face Gunther? Should he face Logan Paul? There's just a lot of things that are thrown around, and we really don't know. We really don't know what's gonna happen. It's way too early to tell. So why go crazy trying to assume when it's probably going to be up to John Cena. He's probably going to want a match. Normally I would say, he's going to want to put younger talent over and blah blah blah. This is his farewell tour, and unless WWE, look, I'm sure they'd be like, all right, put someone over, that's fine. I think they are dead set on giving John Cena the ride of his life, and winning a potential 17th World Championship is a part of that. Surpassing Ric Flair, having the record, being the guy who is the GOAT. They've referenced him as the GOAT for so long. Why not make him officially the greatest of all time, having the most World Championships? And I know sometimes you don't have to have the greatest stats to be the best or the GOAT. It's all subjective, but to me, World Championships in pro wrestling, I think it's not an inflated stat. Ric Flair had 16 forever, and he still has 6. It's been forever. John Cena's been wrestling for over 20 years, and he's got 16 as well. Why couldn't he get 17? So we'll see how that all pans out. Randy Orton's another character in this that it's going to be interesting to play with this farewell tour. CM Punk, I'd like to see get a match with Cena. There's a lot of interesting things I'd like to see Cena do. Maybe even tag with a guy like Punk. I'd like to see Cena versus Rock 3. Who knows what we'll really see. But I just have a feeling that it's going to be one hell of a ride. Let's get into so I'm watching SmackDown as Solo Sikoa comes out right now, and there is a sign in the audience saying Solo Sikoa is the Temu version of the Tribal Chief, which is really, really fun. But yeah, let's get into Raw on Netflix. So the streaming era is very wild to me. You're getting AEW now on Max, crisper, cleaner, a unique way of going about commercials. And now we get Monday Night Raw, a show that's never not been on cable. USA, Spike, TNN, ever since, my life coincides with Monday Night Raw. I was born in January 93, and Raw was, I think, 2 or 3 weeks in by the time that happened. So, that month coincides with everything in my fandom, so it's really cool to see the evolution of it, and now it's going to Netflix. It's huge. Netflix had a little bit of a tough time with the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight, and that was what it was. But they were very successful with the 2 NFL games on Christmas Day, so I think that is a little bit of a positive. And, I'm not going to say not a lot of people are going to watch Raw on Netflix, but I can almost guarantee you it's not going to be upwards of 20 to 30 million. So I think there's the stream. I think there won't be any buffering. I think the stream will be able to handle the volume of viewers. So let's get into it. Monday Night Raw, going to Netflix, the Intuit Dome in LA. I mean, it's just a huge deal. It's practically a PLE. Drew McIntyre, seemingly is with Kevin Owens in a run to beat up anybody that's involved with the Bloodline or helps. That's Cody, that's the Usos, that's Sammy. Drew just beat up Sammy and defeated him at Saturday night's main event. We got another Saturday night's main event coming up as well. So who knows how many more times Drew's going to walk through the Bloodline to get to where he needs to go. Or, any version of the Bloodline. I don't necessarily see Drew McIntyre going up to Solo or Jacob Fatu. However, that would be badass. But let's get to the Monday Night Raw. First episode on Netflix. I'm so stoked for this. It should be a wild, wild show. Intuit Dome, Inglewood, California. 4 matches thus far. I think John Cena is going to show up. I'm pretty sure you're going to get The Rock at some point in this show. You might get Charlotte Flair unless she pops up here as I watch this episode of SmackDown. Who knows? But I would anticipate maybe even Becky Lynch coming back to the Raw roster here. I just fully expect any and all things that kind of been waiting to pop off, to be paid off, happening at this show. They want to make sure this is a memorable show. No one ever forgets the first episode of Raw on Netflix. Sure, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of crazy episodes of Raw on Netflix as we go through the years. But the first one is the one that everyone's going to remember probably more than any other one. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. Like I said, I think Rock will probably show up. So let's get into the matches, and I'm going to preview and predict what I think is going to happen. And apparently it says that Travis Scott's going to be there performing this show's new theme song. Look, man, I'm a huge rap fan, hip-hop fan. I'm a huge Travis Scott fan, probably over, it's 2025 now, so probably like 9-10 years now. And it's so cool to see where he's gone with his career and how just massive he's gotten as a performer. And the fact that Raw, WWE, a huge entity in my life as well, another one, they're going to be combining for probably a new song. All at the same time, all my favorite things are happening, which is really cool to me. Just having all these types of things all at once. Travis Scott performing a new song for the first episode of Raw on Netflix. It's just badass. So I can't wait to hear what that sounds like. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. And I think, I'm not sure on who's going to be on. I think Pat McAfee's going to be on. I think Joe Tessitore will be on, or unless it's Michael Cole. I'm not really sure of the broadcast. Let's see. I want to make sure I get this right. I think we're going to get, let's see here. Outside of those, the announcers. Joe Tessitore, Wade Barrett, and Corey Graves will be on SmackDown, and Michael Cole and Pat McAfee will be on Raw, starting with this first show. So Joe Tessitore being on Raw was great, but now he's going to be on SmackDown. I think it's not a mistake, but because I think Joe Tessitore has been great, but I think Michael Cole should absolutely be on the flagship show. And with Pat McAfee, it just makes it bigger. It's a bigger show. And to be fair, 3 hours of SmackDown now. Joe Tessitore not only gets to command another 3-hour show, he's done it for a few weeks now, a couple months actually, as it pertains to Monday Night Raw and WWE commentating. But now he gets to help with the new talent that has, going to get more, airtime and more opportunities on SmackDown. New people for Joe Tessitore to learn and to grow with and to commentate on. I think it's going to be really cool. So that's a little piece of what's going on the production side of things. But let's get to the matches at hand. Right now, there's 4 matches set on this show. And I don't know. I think there are probably going to be a couple more. It's probably going to be a 3-hour show. Let's be real here. But 4 matches announced. Like I said, John Cena's probably going to show up. Who knows who starts the show? Maybe that is Cena. Maybe it's Punk. Because that match could be the main event. And you say, I don't know. There's so much going on. Cody Rhodes will be on the show. So let's just dive into it. Liv Morgan defends her Women's World title against Rhea Ripley. I would not be shocked if Rhea Ripley wins back her championship here. However, I don't necessarily know if the first Raw on Netflix is the moment for that. Because to me, this thing has been building since SummerSlam, ever since Liv won the title off of Rhea. Retained the champion. Ever since the SummerSlam turn from Dom. Because I can't really recall if she retained or if she already had it, because it's been so damn long. Morgan retained at the show. So I think Rhea Ripley, it's been so long. If the plan's for her to win, and then who knows how the Royal Rumble shakes out in a couple of weeks, then I would say Rhea Ripley should win. And I'm going to say Rhea Ripley does win the Women's World title back from Liv Morgan now. If that happens, I don't know if Liv Morgan's stock crashes, or what really would go forth in regards to that. But I think it's with no other real title matches set for the first Raw on Netflix, I think it'd be cool to have a title change hands on that show. And Rhea Ripley, being one of the most popular stars in WWE, male or female, I think would be badass. So Rhea Ripley, I think, will win the Women's World Championship back from Liv Morgan. Drew McIntyre, as I said, trying to mow down every person ever affiliated with the Bloodline, and going against Jey Uso. And I see nothing but Drew McIntyre getting a huge win here, notwithstanding any potential interference from a Sami Zayn. Dare I say anybody else? Maybe Jimmy gets involved. Maybe KO gets involved. I think Randy Orton could be involved in something. I think Orton could come back at a show like, look, maybe he comes back at this on this SmackDown. I don't know what's actually happening. They just did a Solo Sikoa Paul Heyman segment, and this show's going to end before SmackDown ends. So if something crazy happens after this pod goes up, then that be that as it may. But I think Drew McIntyre will win against Jey Uso, continuing his rise through the ranks. I'm not sure. I did state that I thought Jey Uso could win the Royal Rumble in 2025. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but I think it's less likely to happen now than I initially thought. But if it happens, I will still take credit for it. CM Punk, Seth freaking Rollins, singles match, one-on-one. I think CM Punk should absolutely win this first match. I think it'd be a great statement win. I think it would drive Seth Rollins nuts, even more off the grid than he's been recently and how obsessed he's been with Punk since his return to WWE in November of 2023. And I also don't think this is it. They're probably going to have another match at some point. Their next match after this could potentially have the world title involved. By either Punk or Rollins could be champion by the time they face each other again, maybe at WrestleMania or not. So if Punk wins, maybe Rollins is champion, or maybe Punk wins and then Punk wins the championship and Rollins gets the title back at Mania, but it's the main event, so Punk gets his match, whatever it may be. I'd like to see Punk win, but my prediction for this is Seth Rollins will win the match. And I think Punk is actually going to have a better shot at potentially winning the Royal Rumble at this time. I don't know if Cena's going to do it, but I think one of these older guys is going to win it. So I'm actually going to take Seth Rollins as the official prediction here for this big Netflix Raw debut match between the two. And then we get Tribal Combat for the Ula Fala and the recognition as Tribal Chief of the Anoa'i family, Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa. These two guys, really no surprise that they're finally having this match. Clash at the Castle 2022. That's when Solo Sikoa made his debut. Maybe McIntyre interferes and wants to hurt him too, But I have a feeling The Rock makes an appearance here, sides with Solo, Jacob, and the rest of the Bloodline 2.0, and it's off to the races for what could set up Royal Rumble into WrestleMania season, where I think Roman Reigns versus The Rock is still very much on the table. Title on the line or not. So we'll see. Solo Sikoa could win this match by beating Roman Reigns, maybe by help of The Rock, and then handing over the Ula Fala to The Rock, which I think could be really cool. Almost a Andre winning, quote-unquote, the world title from Hogan and then subsequently selling the championship to Ted DiBiase. So who knows? But I like to think that The Rock is, and I've been saying this, is the guy behind this whole Bloodline 2.0 thing. So we'll see. I absolutely think he's going to show up. It's just too big of a show to not show up. And of course, that's the point. But he did show up at Bad Blood. And I'm like, of all shows to show up, now you should come out at a big show like this. And look, he was on the first episode of SmackDown. It was his show. This is a big deal. Raw 1000 he was on. This is it. The Rock's got to be there. I think every major star should probably be at Raw on Netflix. So we shall see. But this is a huge deal, man. Again, this is the kickoff. I said that the Saturday night's main event was a true Road to WrestleMania Kickstarter, but I think the Raw on Netflix first episode is that true actual Kickstarter to the Royal Rumble, which is the real Road to WrestleMania. Like I said, another Saturday night's main event in between. Elimination Chamber in Toronto, which will be Cena's last Chamber appearance, seeing his last Toronto appearance. There's just a lot stacked in regards to stakes and how important things are going forth. So it is going to be a fascinating couple of weeks as we lead to WrestleMania in Las Vegas. So I've tried to kind of do what I can in regards to recap a lot that's happened the last couple of weeks. Like I said, I'm feeling a lot better, but I was under the weather for about a week and a half, but definitely feel a lot better, knock on wood. And looking forward to more Juicebox stuff this year. Hopefully getting some more SIP series episodes in. I got a pretty ambitious idea of a list of who I'd like to get on the show to interview. Who knows if some of those will come to fruition or not, but hey, you got to give it a shot, The only way to try is to give it a chance. If you don't give it a chance, then it will not happen 100%. So we'll see what happens with the SIP series. Looking forward to getting a Triple Threat Theater crew back together for an episode or 2 or 3 this year. Our prediction show, of course, with LeBar, Eisenberg, those guys, maybe Andrew Badalek coming back into the fray for some of those. And any more potential new collabs, any podcasts I'll be potentially featured on in the future in 2025. I'm looking forward to it. So the door is open. There is no forbidden door. It's a wide open door. It's a hallway. It's the juice box with a big chance. Anybody that's got a straw, throw it in. We'll see what we can get out of any collabs with the juice box. So to end this week's episode, this kind of random impromptu first of the year episode, we're going to do a little Ask Juice to close out. Shout out to the guys at Wrestling Nation for their contributions. As always, we've got what is the best or my personal favorite wrestling reference in a song. I've been thinking about this one, and there's a couple I like, but I'm just going to refer to pretty much rap-related stuff. West Side Gun has a lot of songs. Like, he has a song called Shawn vs. Flair. He's got a Britt Baker song. There's a lot of different songs named after wrestlers, which was always really cool. In the most recent, like, one of the biggest songs of 2024, Not Like Us, from Kendrick Lamar. One of the lines says, sweet chin music, and I won't pass the aux. That's a direct Shawn Michaels line, and it's amazing that it got into a song that's so big. Ric Flair Drip it took over rap and pro wrestling in 2017. So that's probably one of my favorite ones that's kind of happened in the last few years. But there's so many. I'm leaving out a lot, but it just, first to my mind, those are the ones that I really like. I'm just proud that they're there, and just a song that has Ric Flair's name in it, and it's a part of the chorus, and it's Metro Boomin, who's one of my favorite producers, if not favorite in the music game, rap game. So I'd say that. But we also have, of course, the presidential or political realm that Josh Cross loves to dive into. What's your favorite presidential reference in the history of pro wrestling? I'm not going to say the Rosie O'Donnell, was it her and Trump? It was Clinton and Trump and Rosie O'Donnell and someone else. There's always impersonations throughout the really dull days of Raw, but I know they did a Trump and Hillary thing, and Rosie. Why can't I think of? Yeah, it was Trump and Rosie O'Donnell. So, good Lord. Some of the things that they've done on Raw back in the day, it's just, don't go back and revisit it. I was actually a fan of, they had a Bill Clinton impersonator, I think it was at WrestleMania 10, and they just called him the president, but he was a damn good impersonator of Bill Clinton. So that would probably be my favorite, and Bob Backlund kind of running for president I thought was always cool. So that'd be mine. Will The Rock ever run for president? And based on popularity alone, could he win? We don't talk politics on this show. However, I do think it would be interesting if The Rock ran, because there is a lot of popularity there. He's probably one of the biggest movie stars in the world, if not just people in the world. Him and John Cena, which is crazy considering they both came from wrestling first. But yeah, I think it would be interesting. I don't know if he would necessarily win. I mean, he'd have to be a politician and really have stuff to bring to the table and not just at the head of the table. I can't stop talking about wrestling. It would be intriguing for sure. How about this? I don't know if he'd win anything, but I would, if at baseline, I would like to see The Rock in, they have like the debates with like 7 or 8 different people as they're trying to pick the candidates. Like, I'd like to see The Rock in one of those, just going head to head with 4 or 5 different politicians and literally cutting somewhat promos, but he'd have to be more serious. But I think his charisma would take him a long way. We'll see. It's very interesting, to say the least, but I don't know. What is the wrestling equivalent of the 4 teams remaining in the CFP? I don't know. I'm going to go to Lucas and Loper, who put in some good ideas here. Ohio State is either Roman or Peak Cena. They're going to win inevitably, whether you like it or not. Notre Dame would be Cody. Historical name, huge fan following, might not finish the story. Texas could be Randy Orton. Historical significance with a little bit of a down period. And then CM Punk could be Penn State. A cult following, cult of personality. So shout out to everybody in Wrestling Nation for kind of coming up with the answers for that, because I would need a lot more time to really think of it, but I really dug it. So, and what else we've got? I think the last one we've got here is this. Outside of any actual wrestling, what was your favorite memory from WrestleMania 34 weekend in New Orleans? Oh, man. New Orleans is a great place. Really fun time. Man, I don't know. I mean, Josh Cross being spun around in a chair, taking a shot and getting slapped by the bartender was probably the funniest moment. Running into WWE superstars on Bourbon. Bobby Lashley was down there having a good time. I remember Elias was down there performing. You walk into any bar on Bourbon Street and they're playing wrestling themes. Look, if you've never been to the city that hosts WrestleMania for that weekend, especially when it's like a party city, New Orleans, even Orlando, Dallas, Vegas will be this year. Philly was tough because it was colder, but places where you got just like a big party atmosphere already, everybody's just amped up for WrestleMania. You walk into any bar, there's likely wrestling themes going on. Everything's catered to wrestling. It's just a fun weekend. And I'll say this, even if you don't go to WrestleMania, like either night, hell, you could even just go to Raw or any of the shows. You could go to none of the shows. You just go to the city for events, check out Access, check out the WrestleMania Superstore, and just check the vibe from WrestleMania as a whole. It's a wonderful place to be, no matter where it actually takes place, to get the vibes, just the electricity in the air, a bunch of like-minded wrestling fans, all there for the same thing. When people talk about, the Super Bowl of wrestling, yeah, but the Super Bowl, there's only 2 teams. I mean, if you're a fan of football, yeah, you'd go, but you're going to root for one team. Like, it's just wrestling. You could root for pretty much anybody in every match, have a good time the entire time. There's no blowouts. It's just going to be an amazing time, the duration of the show, and now it's 2 nights worth. It's just a wonderful time. I would suggest anybody, if you have a chance to go to WrestleMania, do so. Yeah, a lot of fun had in New Orleans for WrestleMania. I've had a lot of fun at every WrestleMania I've been to. Dallas, Orlando, New Orleans, New York City, and most recently Philadelphia. A lot of great times, a lot of great people, a lot of fun. just throughout the week and weekend. So highly recommend. If you can do it once, I would say just try to do it once. It was a bucket list item for me, and after I did it once, I needed to do it again and again as many times as I could afford. So I've done 5 WrestleManias, and who knows how many more I'll try to do. So that's going to close out Ask Juice here, and that's going to close out the Juice Box here on a Friday night special edition. Hopefully you guys enjoy this show. Enjoy the weekend. It should be, look, we got more wrestling this weekend. We've got more football this weekend if you're a fan of that. Football's just ramping up. College football playoffs are in the Final Four. The NFL playoffs begin next week. Saturday night's main event in a couple of weeks. Royal Rumble at the end of the month. So much damn action going on. Raw on Netflix on Monday. It's going to be one hell of a show. So to stay tuned with all of that and more, follow me on Twitter at Juicy Steen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. You can subscribe to me on YouTube at Juicy Steen and listen to any of the Juice Box episodes in the RSS feed, plus any videos that we upload. The Sip Series episode with Donnie Football is up there, so a lot of cool stuff video-wise as well. And again, who knows what 2025 has in store for the Juice Box and yours truly, and anybody we try to collaborate with, because this is the internet wrestling community, and that's what I like to do, is collab within the community, help the brand, help everybody's brand, and just grow, and just make the community a better place for those that want to be a part of it. So, and, listen to this show on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, juicysteen.podbean.com, and again, YouTube at Juicy Steen if you listen to it on there. Drop a comment, rate it, give it a thumbs up. Listen to it on Apple via iTunes or on Spotify. Leave a rating and review. It really helps the show out. So I really appreciate everybody's support through 2024 in the Juice Box as we get ready to start our 3rd year here at the Juice Box. Cannot believe it, but we are here. An episode of new content each and every week for now starting our 3rd year in a row. So I really appreciate any and all the support, any of the collaborations. You guys are wonderful, and it really makes me happy to do this each and every week because I love pro wrestling, and doing this show really fills a void of what Chair Shot Reality gave to me. So it's really cool to kind of extend that and try to branch out and just welcome everybody in and do what we can to improve the community as a whole. So enough rambling from me. I've been doing that for 50 minutes and for 2 years straight, but here for more years to go. I'm Juice Springsteen. Enjoy the weekend, everybody, and come back next week for another edition of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.